So today we're going to start something new. We're going to start a new topic, and that's talking about CVP. CVP. Yeah, and that is cost, volume, profit analysis. This is a bit not tricky, yeah, but there's a lot of calculations that we'll be doing there. And also we'll still do some graphing, which means there will be some charts. Yeah. But the way I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to give you the formula when there is a formula, but you know my style. I'm not a formula type. I don't like people memorizing formula. So I'm going to show you the understanding of what we are doing and how you can do it without using formula. If you understand it, you should be able to do it without even memorizing formula. So knowing the formula will just be an added advantage for you. Maybe you get stuck or maybe you have a brain block or something. But if everything is fine, you definitely will be able to do it without formula. And that is what I want to do. So pay attention, stay with me. Yeah. If you are not clear in any part of the analysis or discussions, please don't wait. Don't let me build on that bad foundation. You have to shout immediately so we can deal with it before we progress. Right. So basically what we're talking about is how does activity affect company's profitability? That's the summary of what we want to be looking at in all of this chapter. When I say activity, what am I talking about? Please take note, it's actually sales volume that we're talking about. Definitely we'll look at sales revenue as well, but when we talk of activity, is about the volume, the units. Let me put it like that, number of units. That we're selling. Because the higher number of units we're selling, the higher the activity level of the organization. You know what that means? If you are selling so much, you must be producing so much. I'm not taking production volume because your production does not necessarily translate to sales. You get what I mean? Yeah. So what translates to sales is number of units that you're actually selling. That is your actual sales, and that's your driver of activity. The fact that you can produce 1 million and not sell 1 unit. If you're really bad in inventory management, you can be making that mistake, right? But if you're selling a lot, then definitely you have to produce a lot. And definitely you have to collect your money. So a lot of things will be happening within the organization if you are selling. So the level of activity that I'm looking at is sales volume. And please take note of that. Yeah, because definitely every organization, at least if you are not a charity organization, you want to make profit. That's your major objective. Yeah. So if you're going to make profit, you're going to make revenue first. You have to sell first. And selling first is your sales volume that you're making. Yeah. And the question is, how does this affect the level of your profitability? How does that affect profitability? If we sell more, do we make more profit? If we sell less, do we make less profit? Is that true? Yeah. Want to check. So what I'm saying is that we want to focus on how volume of sales affects profitability. Yeah, and definitely when we're talking of profitability, we're also going to be talking about contribution. And if you remember at the beginning of this paper, I said, if not the most important word you'll be hearing in this paper, is one of the most important words, and that is contribution. Yeah, you will hear that every now and then because we how to deal with it. It's a tool that is extremely important. Yeah, contribution. Yeah, you see it every time. Yeah, and there are two major questions that will be coming to our mind. So all the calculations that we're going to be doing will be tailored towards trying to answer these two questions. Two major questions. The first question is, how many units of our product do we have to sell to break even? So how many units of products do we have to sell to break even? That's the first question. What does it mean to break even?
Revenue being equal to the cost. No
Revenue,
profit.
no profits, but there is a loss?
No loss either.
No loss either, exactly. So when we talk about break even, we're talking about a situation when profit equals to zero, because it's important that everything is clear to you. Profit equals to zero. And for profit to be equals to zero, revenue has to be equals to not costs, yeah, but total cost. I'm sure you are wondering right now, because I wanted to put the word total cost because there are different types of cost. You can have variable cost, you can have fixed cost. So as a professional, you have to be eating it on the head, right? Total cost. When your total cost is your revenue, then you are breaking even. At that point, the profit is equals to zero. And at break even, what do you expect your contribution to be? Think about your formula. What's contribution? Contribution equals to what?
Sales less variable cost.
Selling price minus variable cost. Yeah? Selling price minus variable cost. That is contribution. Yeah? And we know that profit is equals to what? Total revenue, which is selling price, minus total cost. We know that. So which means that at break even, this profit will be equals to zero. Right? If profit is equals to zero, then selling price minus total cost will be equals to zero, and selling price equals to total cost. And what is total cost? Total cost is equals to fixed cost plus variable cost. You agree with me? So which means this selling price, we can actually just put it here because we already know the formula is fixed cost plus variable cost, which means that contribution is equals to, instead of putting this selling price, I'll replace it with fixed cost plus variable cost. So contribution equals to fixed cost plus variable cost, then this continues it minus variable cost. The whole of this is what? Plus fixed cost minus fixed cost. I mean variable cost minus variable cost. What's variable cost minus variable cost? Zero. So if this is equals to zero, then automatically your contribution equals to fixed cost at break even. This analysis I've done for you is the understanding that you need such that you don't have to memorize any formula in this reading that we're going to be looking at. This understanding that at break even, your contribution is equals to fixed cost. If you know this, you don't have problems. Even if you don't understand this algebra, if you just know that at break-even point, your contribution is equals to fixed cost, your profitability is equals to zero, That's it. Probably this is the most important thing you need to know at break even, because that is what we're going to be using. Yeah. And what does it mean? Even when you're trying to calculate profit, your profit is the same thing as contribution. Yeah. Minus fixed cost. Do you remember that this is formula of profit actually? Because that's what it means. Because when profit is equal to 0, then that is why your contribution is equal to fixed cost. Is it making sense? Thumbs up. Is it making sense? Yeah, because as I'm building it, I need you to follow, and I need to be sure that you're following. Yeah. So which means at break even, which is the first question that we are trying to ask ourselves, like how many units of product do we have to sell to break even? So which means we'll be calculating how many units do we need to sell such that our contribution will be equal to our fixed cost. Because in most of the questions you will be saying, they will not give you contribution. Most times they will give you fixed cost. Almost all the questions, the only thing they will be giving you is fixed cost. So if you know your fixed cost, then you already know that to break even, you have to have that contribution that is equals to that figure. And if you know that, it's easier for you to now break it down into number of units that you have to sell to make that contribution. The second question, I told you two major questions, right? So the second question that we'll be answering is linked to this formula. And that is, how many units again? Remember, CVP is about activity level analysis. Yeah, and like I will advise you, don't write so much. You always have the video to write. I need you to listen to me to really understand. If you can do the two together, fine. But it's just quite important that you don't miss every step that we are taking. So pay 100% attention. Yeah, the video will always be available for you to write. Yeah. So how many units do we have to sell in order to achieve a target profit? Now you've seen. The first question, we want to break even. The second question, we are being greedy. We want profit. We don't want to even out. We don't want to be making profit of 0. We want to make tangible profit, something big. Yeah. And if you look at this formula that we have put here, break even, we said it has to be equal. But if we want more than breaking even, then it means that how many units do we have to sell such that our contribution will be equals to fixed cost plus the target profit that we are interested in. All I have done is to rearrange this formula. Yeah. So remember, to break even is just this part. This is breaking even. This is when we break even, the first question. Contribution equals to fixed cost. But when we decide to go beyond breaking even, what do? We now added the extra profit that we want. And in that case, contribution now becomes target profit plus the fixed cost. In that case, this is the second question to achieve the target profit. Everything we're going to do in this chapter is just based on those two questions. We will be answering those two questions. We can add maybe a bit of little things to it, but the focus is actually going to be on this. Trying to estimate how many units to break even, how many units to achieve a particular profit. Yeah. And like I said, there are formulas for all of it, but I'm not going to focus on the formulas. I'm going to focus on the understanding, which is all you need. When you have the understanding, you can also test with the formula. Yeah. But you will always have two scenarios of products because organizations sell products, most times not a single product. Yeah. Some organizations have one product, some will have more than one product, right? So we're going to learn it using single product. So scenarios. So you can have organizations with single product. We need to know how to do it if it's just one product. Then you need to learn how to do it if it's multiple products. Single product is easier than multiple product for sure. Yeah. If you have one product, it's just like when we're talking about limiting factor. If you have one limiting factor, it's always easier than when you have multiple limiting factor. And you saw it. And same thing you will see when we have just single product, it's easier. But when you have 2, 3, 4 products, then it's a bit even more techy, right? So let's deal with the single product first. Let's start with the first one, single product. Yeah. So when you look at single product analysis, especially when you are trying to get the contribution per unit, you already said that the formula for contribution per unit is selling price minus variable cost. Yeah. So definitely you are always expecting that, oh yeah, for a single product, our contribution is probably going to be constant because selling price is constant per unit, and likewise variable cost will be constant per unit. So invariably, you're saying that each of all of these, there's a general assumption that they are always constant. So if they are always constant, we don't want constant profit. Sometimes we want to achieve a target profit. So in that case, what we know for us to be able to play around our profitability is that we have to vary our activity level. So which means how do we work with our activity level, with our sales volume to increase our profitability? That's what we always want to do. We want to increase our profitability. So if all of these are constant, then we need to play with volume because volume is never constant. Yeah. We can do 2,000 units, you can sell 5,000 units, you can vary that. So once you vary that, then you know that, yeah, you can achieve your target profit. Okay, so which means we'll be working a lot on varying activity level. And that's why I started from that introduction on why we're looking at this particular CVP. Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is how many units do we need to sell to break even? Our first question. So we want to break even. For a single product, how do we calculate the number of units to sell to break even? Remember, we said at break even, contribution must be equals to fixed cost. So if you want to calculate the number of units to break even, then we should be asking ourselves, what's our contribution per unit? If you know your contribution per unit is the same as your fixed cost per unit. That's what it means because we said contribution must be equals to fixed cost at break even. So if you have a question, let's say selling price equals to $15, variable cost equals to $5. Yeah. And let me not even give you, so let me say fixed cost equals to 20,000. Yeah. Remember, I'm not going to use any formula to do this. So I'll give you the formula. If we sell 1,000 units, what's our profit? Let's play around it first. So what's profit at 1,000 units? Do it for me. At 2,000 units, I want it. and at 3,000 units, what is profit? Quickly. So you're breaking even at 2,000. That's what you said, which is good. But obviously, you won't have different units like this in exams. You just have a question asking you to calculate this break-even unit. And now let's go back to what I told you. I said at break-even, your contribution per unit definitely is equals to fixed cost per unit. Because we said at break-even, contribution is equals to fixed cost. So whatever contribution is, that will be the fixed cost. So even if I calculate my contribution per sales, it's going to be the same thing as my fixed cost per sales. Because at break-even, the contribution is the same as fixed cost. Right? So what is contribution per unit in this question?
10.
10. So contribution per unit is 10 because that is 15 minus 5. Right. So which means $10 of contribution is the same thing as our fixed cost per unit. So that means we know the fixed cost for 1 unit. So if the fixed cost for 1 unit is $10, so fixed cost for 1 unit is $10. The question is, how many units here will give us fixed cost of 20,000? So I have 20,000 here. How many units will give me 20,000? So that means I have to cross multiply 20,000 multiplied by 1, then divided by 10. And that is the 2,000 units that you got. It's as simple as that. And that is the same concept we're going to be using going forward. But if you go to literature textbook, you won't see it ever done like this. It's always formula. You know, professors, they like to just give formula and run away. It's the easiest thing to do. To just give formula and run. But you won't appreciate the concept. Never. It doesn't help you. So if you know this, then why do you have to memorize the formula? Because if you go into your books, they will tell you that at break-even point, the number of units you need is equals to, they ask you to memorize this formula. Fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. That is the formula in the books. And imagine we do a lot of things and you see a lot of formulas similar to this. There will just be confusion all over the place. Especially if you are someone like me that doesn't like to memorize things. And sometimes you can even get confused and start mixing up the formulas. But if you have the understanding, even if you memorize the formula, they're just going to complement each other. You're not going to get confused, because if you find yourself in a confused state, then you can go back to the understanding and you're good. So this is the formula, which will give you the same result. But like I always tell you, I don't like the formulas. I like understanding. Now let's do the second question, which is target profit for single product. If we want to do target profit, let's say we are targeting a profit of $15,000. We're going to use the same approach. Yeah, we're saying here that we just don't want to break even. We want to do more than breaking even. Yeah, so which means we want our contribution to be equals to more than fixed cost, not just fixed cost. So we want our contribution to be equals to fixed cost plus target profit. Are you with me? So which means you are practically targeting a contribution of how much? Fixed cost is 20,000 and your target profit is 15,000. So what you are saying is you are actually targeting a 35,000 contribution. That is what you are saying. Yeah. So, so the question that we'll be asking is, how many units? How many units will give not just fixed cost, but fixed cost plus the target profit, which is this. So before it was just fixed cost. How many units will be fixed cost? But when we start getting greedy and asking for more than the fixed cost, then we're saying how many units will give that fixed cost plus the profit that we're looking for. So we're saying that contribution per unit, which is the same thing as fixed cost per unit, is giving us 1 unit. But this time around, we are looking for not just this fixed cost, but fixed cost plus target profit, and that is 35,000. And the same thing that you've been doing, you cross multiply 35,000, multiply by 1, then divided by 10. And that is 3,500 units. So if you test this 3,500, tell me, what is your profit? Whatever you did here, what is 3,500? What profit will that give? Quickly. Just to test your analysis.
15,000, eh?
Exactly. And there's a formula as well in the textbook. If you are the formula type, yeah, the formula is just addition to this formula, yeah, which you also, it's easy to memorize even with your understanding, because now we're just going to add it to this place. So which means that the unit you have to sell will be equals to fixed cost plus target profit divided by contribution per unit. You can see that the formula is getting more now. But the good thing is, with your understanding, even if you have to memorize this formula, you can already see that why you are adding this and this together up there, because your numerator is actually your contribution. So you're practically just saying total contribution divided by contribution per unit is equals to number of units. That's what you're saying. Right. So quick one, tell me, if I'm interested in 10,000 profits, how many units do you have to sell? I don't want you to use formula, please. Stay away from the formula as much as possible, except you really struggle. Because I need you to understand this concept of, comparing units with the ratio and working it the way we've been doing it. How many units do you have to sell to make 10,000 profit?
So we're using our same previous figures?
Yes, stay on those figures.
Okay, then 3,000.
3,000, okay. 3,000 as well. Fantastic. 3,000. Yeah, which is, you already have it here, see it. Very good.